Sarah, a dedicated architect in her early 30s, navigated the intricate blueprints of skyscrapers with the same precision she applied to her life. Her days were a relentless cycle of client meetings, design revisions, and site visits, yet she always carved out time for her family. As the eldest daughter, a quiet responsibility settled upon her shoulders, a silent promise to uphold the foundations of their shared world. Her younger sister, Emily, embodied a stark contrast, a free spirit whose artistic aspirations often clashed with the harsh realities of financial stability, painting murals of dreams that rarely paid the bills. At the heart of their family stood Maria, their mother, a matriarch whose resilience was as legendary as her guarded nature. She was the glue, the silent force holding them together, yet beneath her stoic exterior lay an ocean of unspoken secrets. 5 years prior, their father David had passed away, leaving behind not just a void, but a lingering echo of unanswered questions that hummed beneath the surface of their daily lives. The family group chat, a digital hearth, was their central hub, a constant stream of updates, playful banter, and logistical planning that tethered them across the distances of their busy lives. Sarah's routine was unwavering. Long hours at the firm, followed by a ritualistic check of her phone, ensuring her family was accounted for. Yet lately, an undercurrent of tension had begun to ripple through their digital haven. Emily's artistic endeavors, while passionate, frequently led to financial struggles, a topic delicately skirted in the chat. Maria, too, seemed to withdraw further into herself, her messages becoming shorter, her replies more infrequent. Sarah felt the familiar weight of responsibility pressing down, often sacrificing her own needs for the perceived stability of her family. Fleeting memories, like ghostly apparitions, would sometimes surface, glimpses of David and Maria's strained relationship in the months leading up to his death, an unspoken tension that had always felt just beyond Sarah's grasp. Then the screenshot appeared. It was late evening, the city lights painting muted patterns on Sarah's apartment wall, when her phone buzzed with a notification from the family chat. Maria, their usually meticulous mother, had sent it. It was a cropped image, a fragment of a private message exchange, clearly an accident. The visible text was jarring, disturbing. Fragments like "The Secret" and "David's Will" leaped out from the glowing screen, chilling Sarah to her core. Confusion warred with a sudden sharp suspicion. She saw Emily was online, her own response a single cryptic emoji, a face with wide, shocked eyes. Sarah's fingers trembled as she tried to call Maria, but the call went straight to voicemail. She texted Emily a flurry of questions, but her sister deflected, claiming she was too busy to talk, an excuse that felt paper-thin. Moments later, the screenshot vanished from the chat, deleted by Maria, accompanied by a terse message claiming it was a mistake. The explanation felt hollow, a flimsy veil over a gaping chasm of uncertainty. Sarah's unease solidified into a gnawing sense of betrayal, a cold knot tightening in her stomach. She stared at her phone, the ghost of the deleted screenshot haunting her thoughts, a stark realization dawning. Her family, it seemed, was far less transparent than she had ever dared to believe. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The lingering unease metastasized into a relentless compulsion for truth. Sarah embarked on a discreet investigation, a silent, solitary quest that began with sifting through old family photographs, each smiling face now imbued with a shadow of doubt. She scrutinized Maria's expressions in pictures taken in the months preceding David's death, searching for any flicker of the duplicity that now seemed to cling to her mother like a shroud. A subtle shift in Maria's gaze, a forced cheerfulness, a fleeting detachment. These almost imperceptible cues, once dismissed, now screamed volumes. Meanwhile, Emily, her usual artistic vibrancy dimmed, became increasingly distant, a phantom presence in their digital exchanges, masterfully deflecting Sarah's probing questions with vague excuses and an evasive silence that spoke louder than any words. Sarah's search led her to the dusty attic of Maria's home, a place rarely disturbed, where forgotten memories often resided. Tucked away in a forgotten corner, beneath an old quilt, she discovered a small wooden box, meticulously carved, smelling faintly of cedar and mothballs, David's belongings, untouched since his passing. Inside, nestled amongst his favorite pipe and a worn leather wallet, lay a small leather-bound diary. Its pages, brittle with age, promised a voice from the past, a truth long buried. With trembling hands, Sarah began to read. The diary entries, penned in David's familiar, elegant script, painted a heartbreaking picture of a man grappling with growing suspicion. He wrote of Maria's increasing secretiveness, late-night phone calls, and unexplained absences. The words laid bare David's devastating realization of Maria's infidelity, a betrayal that gnawed at his soul. Then, a specific entry caught Sarah's eye, a detailed account of a significant financial transaction, a large sum of money transferred from David's business account to an unknown offshore entity, just weeks before his death. The pieces began to click into place. The unknown contact in the screenshot, the one discussing the secret and David's will, could only be Mark, David's former business partner, a man who had vanished without a trace shortly after David's passing. The weight of this realization pressed down on Sarah, heavy and cold. Armed with this damning evidence, Sarah confronted Emily. Her sister, usually so composed, finally buckled under the weight of Sarah's unwavering gaze and the undeniable truth she held in her hands. Emily's carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing a terrified, complicit young woman. She confessed, her voice a fragile whisper, that Maria had indeed been having an affair with Mark, and David had discovered it. The financial transaction David had mentioned in his diary, Emily revealed, was Maria's manipulative ploy. Maria had coerced David into changing his will, ensuring Emily received a substantial sum, while Sarah, the elder daughter, was left with almost nothing. The screenshot, Emily explained, was a desperate message from Mark to Maria, demanding more money, threatening to expose their sordid past, to unravel the carefully constructed tapestry of lies. Emily's silence, she admitted through tears, was born of a paralyzing fear of losing her mother, fear of financial instability, fear of shattering the fragile peace that had been bought at such a terrible cost. Sarah felt a profound, searing sense of betrayal, not just from Maria but from Emily's complicity, her quiet acceptance of the deception. The confrontation with Maria was inevitable, a storm that had been brewing for years. Sarah, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, laid out the evidence: David's diary, Emily's tearful confession, the ghost of the screenshot. Maria, initially defiant, her eyes flashing with a familiar stubbornness, launched into a furious denial. But as Sarah systematically dismantled her lies, presenting irrefutable proof, Maria's defenses crumbled. Her denial morphed into a desperate defensiveness, then a venomous lashing out, years of hidden resentments and insecurities spilling forth like venom. The argument escalated, a raw, brutal exchange that laid bare the twisted foundations of their family. Finally broken and cornered, Maria admitted everything: the affair with Mark, the manipulation of David's will, all driven by a desperate hunger for financial independence and a bitter desire for revenge against David for perceived past slights. The climax of the revelation struck Sarah with the force of a physical blow. The image of her family, once a comforting haven, was now shattered beyond repair, its true nature a grotesque distortion of love and loyalty. Utterly devastated, Sarah turned and walked out, leaving behind a cacophony of shattered trust and the desolate echo of a mother's confession. The world outside Maria's house blurred as Sarah drove, a suffocating fog of disbelief and anguish clouding her vision. The foundation of her life, once seemingly solid, had crumbled into dust, leaving her adrift in a desolate sea of betrayal. She isolated herself, retreating into the sterile sanctuary of her apartment, the vibrant city lights outside her window mocking the darkness within. Each passing hour was a struggle, her mind replaying Maria's venomous words, Emily's tearful confession, and David's heartbroken entries. The loss she felt was profound, a mourning for the idealized family she had believed in, a phantom limb-ache for a past that was nothing but a meticulously constructed lie. Emily's attempts to reach out were met with a wall of silence. Sarah's phone, once a lifeline, became an instrument of torment, buzzing with Emily's remorseful texts, each one a fresh reminder of her sister's complicity. Maria's messages followed, a desperate string of justifications, pleas for understanding, and thinly veiled attempts to shift blame, but Sarah simply ignored them, her fingers hovering over the block button. The emotional turmoil seeped into every aspect of her life, even her work, her meticulous designs now sloppy, her focus fractured. Deadlines loomed, unheeded, her once sharp intellect dulled by the relentless churn of her shattered heart. Recognizing the dangerous spiral, Sarah sought professional help. Therapy became a lifeline, a safe space to untangle the knotted threads of her emotions. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to understand her own role in the intricate dance of family dynamics, her unwavering belief in Maria's facade, her silent acceptance of the unspoken rules. Rereading David's diary, she found entries that spoke not just of his pain, but of his profound love for her, a love untainted by his personal failings. He had seen her, truly seen her, and cherished her strength. This revelation was a balm, a gentle reminder that not everything about her past was a lie. The situation began to transform in her mind, shifting from a simple narrative of betrayal to a complex tapestry of human failings, desperate choices, and the crushing weight of circumstance. The concept of forgiveness, not just for others but for herself, slowly, tentatively, began to emerge from the wreckage. The first step was Emily. Sarah agreed to meet, not to offer immediate absolution, but to understand, to truly listen. Their conversation was raw, stripped bare of pretenses, a painful excavation of shared history and individual wounds. Emily, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute, acknowledged her fear, her complicity, and her deep regret. She expressed a fervent desire to make amends, offering to help Sarah contest the manipulated will, a tangible gesture of her commitment to rebuilding their fractured bond. The air between them, heavy with unspoken grief, began to lighten, a fragile thread of hope weaving through the lingering pain. Next, Sarah met Maria. This was not for reconciliation, but for closure. Maria, visibly aged, her once fiery spirit dimmed by the weight of her own deceptions, sat across from Sarah, a figure of profound remorse. For the first time, without anger or defensiveness, Maria took full, unequivocal responsibility for her actions. The admission, though long overdue, brought a strange sense of peace to Sarah, a quiet understanding that the truth, however painful, had finally been laid bare. The will was contested, a difficult and emotionally draining legal battle, but with Emily's unwavering support and the irrefutable evidence, Sarah finally received her rightful inheritance. She chose to honor David's memory in a way that truly reflected his spirit, establishing a foundation in his name, dedicated to supporting young artists, a fitting tribute to his own unfulfilled passions and Emily's dreams. Her relationship with Emily, once shattered, began to heal, built on a new, honest foundation of shared understanding and mutual respect. With Maria, Sarah chose a path of limited contact, acknowledging the deep wound, but refusing to let it define her future. The final scene found Sarah in her sunlit apartment, a quiet smile gracing her lips. She held a framed photograph of herself and David, both of them younger, laughing, their bond clear and untainted. The past no longer held her captive. She had found her own form of redemption, not in forgetting, but in understanding, forgiving, and forging a path forward, independent of the shadows that once threatened to consume her. The architect had rebuilt her own life, stronger and more